Guess what? You're broke. You want money? And I can help you get money. Just like most real jobs, you have to be ready and willing to put in the work and hours. But if you are, you'll be making more money than the people that aren't in your server. Guaranteed. Now sit straight and pay attention while I break it down. This should go without saying, but don't feel constrained to any one job. In other words, if you notice there's nothing to do at your job, find the cause of the disturbance and fix it. Are you a pizza boxer with no pizzas to box? Go to the kitchen and see what's happening. Are pizzas not being cooked because there are no chefs? Become a chef. Is it instead a lack of ingredients that's the problem? Get your ass to the supply station. If a cog is missing in the money-making mechanism, don't wait for someone to fill the void. Do it yourself. This should also go without saying, but if you're a manager, don't try to mimic real life by hanging around the workplace and acting like getting your hands dirty is beneath you. If you want to set a good impression for your colleagues, you should set a good example by following my first tip. When it comes to picking a job that needs doing, you should follow this list of which jobs to prioritize over others. Cashier is at the top because this is what gets orders and subsequently money flowing through the pizzeria. Supplier comes next because the chefs and pizza boxers depend on the supplier to make sure supplies never reach zero and halt the production/money line. Then there's the chefs, who can focus on putting the money makers on the conveyor belt so long as supplies are stocked and at least one cashier is doing a good job. Second to last is the boxer, because someone has to box the valuables eventually, and that leaves delivery as the poor chump in the back. I'll explain why later. Whether you decide to keep this list in mind or not, so long as you follow tip number 1, it'll only be a matter of time before you start revering the list as sacred texts. Unfortunately, you will inevitably encounter servers with many players on break, or griefing in one way or the other. If you notice these red flags, you should act on them by leaving and rejoining the game until you join a server that has more people interested in making the monies. Now that you've got an idea of how to conduct yourself as an employee at Builder Brothers Pizza, I'll teach you how you can bring your A game to any position you find yourself in. Cash. The first thing you should do is go to your settings, go to More Settings, and enable Old Customer Dialog, because this will make your time per customer shrink by a few seconds, assuming you don't make any mistakes, of course. The difference between Old Customer Dialog and New Customer Dialog is that in addition to screwing up the order by pressing the wrong menu item button, you can also goof up by choosing a bad greeting that will scare any customer, guaranteed. If you're not used to the way people spoke back in my day, you'll likely sputter ridiculous nonsense that will drag your perfect 3-star rating down to a 2, but it won't take much practice to turn you into a near-perfect order-taking machine. Being as efficient as possible is only half the battle though. The other half is knowing when to clock in and clock out, because I know from experience how easy it is to take orders on autopilot while watching a YouTube video, only to realize too late that I was standing behind the counter unnecessarily. So, what's the magic process? Well, it's as easy as this. Be a cashier only if nobody else is a cashier. And while you're a cashier, don't switch jobs unless another cashier comes by or the order board in the kitchen is full, whichever comes first. If it's the latter, the issue will more often than not be because of a lack of cooks, rather than said cooks being present but incompetent. No matter the case, you better walk into that kitchen and do a dang good job. Cook. The simplest way to become a better cook is by improving your mechanical ability to make pizzas, but because the process of making a pizza is pretty straightforward, I'll instead focus this section of the video on the decision-making process you should adopt as a chef. There's a lot of little things you should try to keep in mind that'll help minimize wastefulness and maximize profits, and the list proceeds as follows. Don't take out ingredients you're not about to use. Make sure no pizzas are left on the ground for too long. If a pizza was unfortunate enough to lie on the ground long enough to attract hungry critters, throw it out. Put any pizzas on the conveyor belt as soon as they're cooked. If a pizza was left on the countertop, don't throw it out. You can save this pizza by reheating it in the oven. If a cheese pizza was made, but no cheese pizzas were ordered, you can add toppings after the pizza is cooked, and the conveyor belt will accept it as a pepperoni/sausage pizza. Please don't burn a pizza. If orders are coming in slowly, make some pizzas in advance. Dance. And last but not least, try not to get in the way of other cooks if they're present. This is easier said than done, since nobody uses voice chat for this game at the moment, and typing your every intention in chat would take too long. But give it your best effort. If you see someone making a cheese pizza, make a sausage pizza. Did they put the cheese pizza in the top left oven? Let them take it out themselves, and only intervene if it's about to burn. Did a cook intentionally cook themselves in an oven? Watch them burn. It's things like these that can help make the kitchen operate smoothly and efficiently. Even if you're the only person keeping those tips in mind, with the combined efforts of everyone else, you'll be making more money in a jiffy. Holy crap, the conveyor belt is stuffed with unboxed pizzas. Sounds like a job that needs doing. Boxer. Gee, there sure isn't a lot to talk about around here. But there's at least two things you can take note of. When boxing pizzas, place an empty box on the conveyor belt that goes to the delivery room, then put a pizza inside the box. When you close the box, the pizza will vanish from the room and save you the trouble of having to drag it to the belt. If you close an empty box by mistake, it's not the end of the world. Reopening the closed box will prevent it from vanishing to the shadow realm and give you a chance to try again. Was that fun? Maybe. But this next job should be fun and then some. Delivery. This may sound counterintuitive at first, but make sure you've amassed a large number of orders before you hop in a car. Letting the pile get larger sounds like a waste of time, but in actuality, this is how you can make a little extra money. The more orders you've hoarded for yourself to deliver, the more likely you'll be delivering more than one order to the same house. And when this happens, you'll get extra money on each subsequent order. To make a little more extra money, hand out the orders from lowest to highest rarity, because, for example, the value of a rainbow pizza that's handed out after a gold pizza is worth more than that same rainbow pizza if you handed it out before the gold pizza instead. In other words, the bonus money received from handing out the 5th consecutive rainbow pizza order to the same house has the same value as a rainbow pizza order preceded by 4 pizzas of any rarity all going to the same house. That's the best way I can describe what I'm trying to explain with words, but if it still doesn't make sense, try it out for yourself and you'll see what I mean. As for the order in which houses you should visit first, it's mostly up to preference, but I would typically play it safe and go down each street before making my way back to the pizzeria. I usually start by going up C Street, down B Street, then up A Street, but the fewer orders you have, the more creative you can be with your plan. Do you only have orders for A3 and C1? There's some nice land you can drive across with no consequence. Feel free to drive across people's front lawns and stoops as well, because while being difficult to execute, it's the first step of a process that can help you save time on each house visit. Once you've handed out all the orders to a house and regained control of your character, you can get in your car and drive away even while off screen. It can be challenging trying to figure out where your car is without the camera tracking you, but performing this trick successfully saves you a few seconds which would have otherwise been spent waiting for the camera to refocus on you. And wow. It just so happens that a supplier is the next talking point of this video. So, without further ado, supplier. The job that gets neglected the most is also simple, but unlike the boxer, you gotta click more than thrice. You sure gotta click a lot. So it's no wonder this job is unpopular. Someone's gotta do it though, and if it's you, I, at least, will thank you for your services. There isn't a lot to talk about with this job as well, but there's at least one thing you could keep in mind. It's not very feasible, but if it just so happens that you're stuck as a supplier for an extended period, try to fully stock the pizzeria, and then leave a truck or two full of supplies in the loading dock. Now, whenever supplies are running low, someone just has to go to the loading dock to restock rather than all the way to the other side of the island and back. If one of the two trucks full of stuff just got dumped, you can use the time between then and when the second truck's stuff is needed to reload the first truck full of stuff. This is only achievable if you devote yourself entirely to the supplier position, and the rest of the pizzeria is doing fine on its own, which sometimes will be very unlikely. But in case you wanted a ridiculous idea implanted in your brain, I got you covered. And speaking of ridiculous, manager. Basically what I said earlier. Yeah, that's it. As is this video. You're now equipped with the tips and tricks to make extra money, so I hope you'll put them to good use, and I'll see y'all later.